to read a book about Rosa Parks by Nikki Giovanni, illustrated by Brian Collier. Miss Parks was having a good day. Mother was getting over that touch of flu and was up this morning for breakfast at the table. Her husband, Raymond Parks, one of the best barbers in the county, had been asked to take on extra work at the Air Force Base. And the first day of December was always special because you could just feel Christmas in the air. So it's just showing you a picture of Rosa and her family. Would soon be very, very good. The women of Montgomery, both young and older, would come in with their fancy holiday dresses that needed adjustments on their Sunday suits and blouses that needed a touch, a flower or some velvet trimming or something to make the ladies look festive. Rosa Parks was the best seamstress. The needle and thread flew through her hand like the gold spinning from Rumpelstiltskin's loom. That's that comparison, we see that simile, like. The other seamstress would tease Rosa Parks and say she used magic. Rosa would laugh, not magic, just concentration, she would say. Some days she would skip lunch to finish on time. So the author is basically letting us know that she was a seamstress and that she was very good at what she did, okay? This Thursday, they had gotten a bit ahead of their schedule. Why don't you go home, Rosa, said the supervisor. Your supervisor is like your manager. There's someone that is above you. I know your mother is feeling poorly and you might want to look in on her. The supervisor knew Rosa would stay until the work was done, but it was only December 1st. No need to push. Rosa appreciated that. Now she could get home early, and since Raymond would be working late, maybe she would surprise him with a meatloaf, his favorite. See you in the morning, Rosa waved goodbye and headed for the bus stop. She fiddled in her pocket for the dime so she would not have to ask for change. When she stepped up to drop her fare in, she was smiling in anticipation of the nice dinner she would make. As was the evil custom, she would then get off the bus and went to the back door to enter the bus from the rear. So basically at this time, African Americans had to enter the bus a separate way. Also at this time, if a Caucasian person wanted to sit in an African American's person's seat, they had to give up their seat and move to the back, okay?
Rosa Parks refused to do that?
Yes. Rosa saw the section reserved for blacks was full, but she noticed the neutral section, the part of the bus where blacks or whites could sit, had free seats. The left side of the aisle had 2 seats, and on the right side, a man was sitting next to the window. Rosa decided to sit next to him. She did not remember his name, but she knew his face. His son Jimmy came frequently to the NAACP Youth Council affairs. They exchanged pleasantries as the bus pulled away from the curb. Rosa settled her sewing bag and her purse near her knees, trying not to crowd Jimmy's father. Men take up more space, she was thinking as she tried to squish her package closer. The bus made several more stops and 2 seats opposite her were filled by blacks. She sat on the side of the aisle, daydreaming about her good day and planning her special meal for her husband. So this is Rosa on the bus. I said, "Give me those seats," the bus driver bellowed. Miss Park looked up in surprise. The 2 men on the opposite side of the aisle were rising to move into the crowded black section. Jimmy's father muttered, more to himself than anyone else, "I don't feel like trouble today. I'm gonna move." Miss Park stood to let him out, looked at James Black, the bus driver, and then sat back down. "You better make it easy on yourself," Blake yelled. "Why do you pick on us?" Miss Parks asked with that quiet strength in her voice. "I'm going to call the police," Blake threatened. "Do you do what you must," Miss Parks quietly replied. She was not frightened. She was not going to give in to that which was wrong. Some of the white people were saying aloud, "She ought to be arrested and take her off this bus." Some of the black people, recognizing the potential ugliness, got off the bus. Others stayed on, saying amongst themselves, "That is the neutral section. She has a right to be there." Miss Parks sat. So she was not budging. She was not moving. Parks sat waiting for the police to come. She thought all of the brave men and women, boys and girls who stood tall for civil rights, the rights of the people. She recited in her mind the 1954 Brown versus the Board of Education decision, in which the United States Supreme Court ruled that separate is inherently unequal. She sighed as she realized she was tired. Not tired from work, but tired of putting white people first. Tired of stepping off sidewalks to let white people pass. Tired of eating at separate lunch counters and learning at separate schools. She was tired of colored entrances, colored balconies, colored drinking fountains, and colored taxis. She was tired of getting somewhere first and being waited on last. Tired of separate, but definitely tired of not being equal. So what did she want here? Equality. She wanted white and black people to be treated just the same, okay? She thought about her mother and grandmother and knew they would want her to be strong. She had not sought this moment, but she was ready for it. When the policeman bent down to ask, "Auntie, are you going to move?" all the strength of the people through all those many years joined in her. Rosa said, "No." So right here, she's being defiant against the rules at this time, but she's being defiant for a reason, because she's sick and tired of having to get up and move and put the Caucasian people over herself and her people. Safe? Robinson was at the Piggly Wiggly when she learned of the arrest. She had stopped in to purchase a box of macaroni and cheese. She always served macaroni and cheese when she baked red snapper for dinner. Red snapper is fish. A sister member of the Women's Political Council approached her just as she reached the checkout lane. "Not Miss Parks," Miss Robinson exclaimed. She then looked furtively along. "Pass the word that everybody should meet at my office at 10 o'clock tonight," she said. Miss Robinson was also Dr. Robinson, a professor at Alabama State, the college designated for colored people, and she was the newly elected president of the Women's Political Council. She rushed home to put dinner on the table, cleaned up the kitchen, and put the kids to bed. She kissed her husband goodbye and hurried to the college. It was dark when they finally gathered. So what do you think they're going to gather and talk about?
Rosa Parks.
Yeah, what happened to Rosa Parks and maybe how they could help her or fix the situation. Say prayers in hopes that they were doing the right thing. After all, they were going to use the stencil maker, printer, and the paper of Alabama State without permission. So they know they're not supposed to be doing that. If they were caught at the college, they could all be arrested for trespassing. But they were working to undermine a vicious law. They decided they would stand under the umbrella of courage Rosa Parks had offered, keeping off the reins of fear and self-disgust. The woman quickly formed a group to carry out each task. Making the stencils was the most difficult because the machine keys had to be struck very hard so the letters would be clearly readable. If a mistake was made, the whole page had to be thrown out, and it took a lot of concentration. So these women, they gathered together to help her. The posters read, "No riders today, support Miss Park, stay off the buses, walk on Monday." We call this a boycott. The woman made enough posters for almost every citizen of color in Montgomery. The next morning, I came together in a great mass meeting. The Women's Political Council, the NAACP, and all the churches, they needed someone to speak for them, to give voice to the injustice, to the wrong things happening in the world. Everyone agreed that the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. would be the ideal. "We will stay off the buses," Dr. King intoned. "We will walk until justice runs down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream." So he wanted all of his people to walk and not ride the bus, because guess what? If they're not riding the bus, they're not giving the bus driver any money, right? So the company is now losing money. And does any company really want to lose money?
No.
No, they don't. Exactly. All over the United States sent shoes and coats and monies to the citizens of Montgomery could walk. Everyone was proud of their non-violent, no violence movement. And the sole force that bound the community together would sustain many marchers for the years of struggle there were yet to come. See all the people here.
Four whole pages.
Say. November 13th, 1956, almost a year after the arrest of Rosa Parks, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that segregation on the buses, like segregation at schools, was illegal. Segregation was wrong, separating the Caucasian and the African American people in such a way. Rosa Parks said no, so the Supreme Court could remind the nation that the Constitution of the United States makes no provision for second-class citizens. We are all equal under the law and are all entitled to its protection. Integrity, the dignity, the quiet strength of Rosa Parks turned her into a yes for change. Because at this time, change was needed. Someone needed to be brave enough to say, this has to stop now. This is not okay. This is unfair. This is an injustice to my people. And she was the one who finally said it. And then people stood with her to say, you're right, this is unfair, and we should not tolerate this behavior anymore. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay? Did you like this book?
Yeah.
Turn and talk. And you are going to discuss the injustice that Rosa Parks felt on that day, that she would not budge on the bus. Okay? Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Turn back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I definitely heard a lot of great things, and weren't you so happy to see that they even was able to get Martin Luther King Jr. on board? And we had already read about Martin Luther King Jr. and how he was trying to help the cause. Yeah. So now you can see how we're bringing other African American icons into the picture and how they are meeting other important icons like Rosa Parks. And I'm pretty sure she met even more African American icons along the way as well.